Guys, I have my phone out for this one because I am going to be exposing my own texts, my own texting habits. This is going to be deep because as an avoidant person, I suck at texting. And I really noticed this recently because I met this person and we hung out a few times. We've been texting back and forth. I'm really enjoying our conversation. I feel like this person gets my humor. We have so much in common. We have a lot of the same life goals, career goals. And despite enjoying our conversations, I noticed that I just take forever to get back to him. I shut down so hardcore when it comes to texting. Like on Sunday, let me actually look at my phone for this. So last Sunday, we were texting. I remember he sent me a text in the morning. We were having a conversation in the morning. So he had sent me a text at 10:06 a.m. and I didn't get back to him until 9:09 p.m. at night. And that was after he texted me again to kind of try to revive the conversation. And again, it's very early days. We've only hung out a few times, still getting to know each other, understand your level of compatibility. But still, I understand how someone could arrive at the conclusion that like, oh, this person is probably not as into me as I'm into them, or maybe they're not enjoying the conversation, when I was enjoying the conversation. And it was just very amusing to me. Like, why am I like this? And so that's why I wanted to make this video, try to get to the bottom of what might be going on with an avoidant person who sucks at texting like me, and specifically talk about 4 things that I think are perhaps going on. And by the way, if you're not sure if you're dating an avoidant or not, I do have an Are You Dating an Avoidant quiz linked in the description. Check that out. Also, I want to say, avoidance is on a spectrum. So, some avoidants might shut down hardcore around quality time or having tough conversations. For me, it's communication, texting. But I'm hoping that in making this video, it can clear up some misconceptions that I see out there on the interwebs about the motivations of avoidant behaviors. I often see these misconceptions that people assign these villain motivations to avoidant behaviors as if we're playing 4D chess, trying to, control people by withdrawing attention and sucking at texting. When in reality, we're just really out of touch with certain things, If something hasn't been modeled to you, then you're not going to know that you're either doing something wrong or you could be doing it significantly better. Like it's not even going to occur to you. So I hope that this video can help clear some of that up. I should also introduce myself if anyone's brand new here before I get into that. So my name is Wanda. Welcome to my channel, Confessions of an Avoidant. Pretty self-explanatory channel name. I just love talking about avoidant attachment. One last thing before I get into these 4 things that are going on with avoidant people. I would really appreciate it if, in the spirit of this channel, which is all about sharing is caring, I'm a big fan of being self-accountable, being forthcoming, being honest with yourself. If you're going to leave a comment, I would really, really appreciate it if you could leave a comment in that same spirit of maybe sharing something about yourself, about your own attachment style, your own texting behaviors. It really helps me learn about other people's attachment styles and other maybe avoidant people who might be watching this video, scanning the comments. Okay, so the first thing going on with avoidant people who, like myself, suck at texting is modeling. So essentially modeling means you as a person will develop certain behaviors that were modeled to you by your caregivers. I've really realized in preparing to make this video how much reluctantly I have to admit that so many of my behaviors are like my parents. I hate saying that. But my parents, particularly one of them who kind of created the environment in our home, they would feel very annoyed or paranoid even, or really act like they were being bothered by communication in the form of a phone call, in the form of text, in the form of a knock at the door. Someone communicating with them was someone taking time away from their peace and quiet. Even with my parents' own friends, like I remember my parents had these really good friends, like they're probably their closest family friends. Even if they were, coming over later, which is very rare. My parents hated having guests over. Shocker. But even if they were coming over and they called the house, I remember my parents would always resist wanting to get the phone or answer the phone. And then they would check to see who was calling. And even if they saw it was the guest that was coming over later, they would always have this energy of being oh God, they're calling. Or they would just seem so bothered when their own friends was touching base about hey, I'm going to come in an hour. Do you want anything? I'm stopping by the supermarket. Their friend going out of their way to just touch base with them was this annoying thing to my parents. Another thing I forgot to include as an example, whenever me or one of my siblings needed to call my parents, particularly one of them, for anything, they would act like we were bothering them or we were disrupting them. And sometimes they wouldn't help us with the thing that we were calling for. For example, oftentimes when my sister and I needed to be picked up from school and one of my older brothers couldn't come pick us up, we had to make the dreaded phone call to the one parent that was home to come pick us up. And a lot of times they didn't want to. They made us feel bad about it, sometimes making us feel like we just had to figure out another way home. And oftentimes we'd have to, with a lot of dread, call them multiple times just to get them to answer the phone, which is modeling that to your children. Calling someone that you want to trust and want to feel safe with actually causes a lot of dread and anxiety for you. I also distinctly remember my parents always having this energy of resentment and feeling bothered whenever their own friends would come over and visit. So my parents modeled to me that the concept of having people over, carrying a conversation, holding someone's attention, them holding your attention, all of these things are a nuisance. They're annoying. They're exhausting. They're stressful. Resist it. Don't answer the phone. Put it off. And I think I really have picked up these behaviors that were modeled to me on a subconscious level. So yeah, I need to work on that because I don't want to be like my parents. The second thing that might be going on, and I know it's going on for me, is stored negative emotional and psychological associations with communication, wanting to bond. Texting is a form of bonding. As a result of certain things in my childhood, I feel like my body associates bonding with fear, something that I should be scared of, something that I have to tiptoe around. And I think that's mainly because I had one parent who was, when they weren't emotionally neglecting us, they were just raging out. They were raging out over every stupid little thing. If the television remote was missing, rage. 30 minutes of rage. If the printer wasn't working, an emotionally available, securely attached parent would be like, oh, the printer's not working, honey. Oh, let's try turning it off and turning it back on. My parent, rage. It's how dare the printer not work? What did you guys do? 30 minutes, raging, punishment. It was crazy. And when you have a parent in your home like that, I'm sure you can relate in that when you want to bond with that parent, you're like, are they gonna rage cringe at me for wanting to bond with them. Or if you have to go talk to them about something, you're like, are they going to rage? Are they going to be the rage parent today? Or are they going to be the person that's just a normal human being? And so I know for a fact that my body associates, bonding and needing to communicate with something that feels scary. And of course, it's not like I'm consciously thinking as someone is texting me at 10 a.m. in the morning. It's not like I'm consciously going, oh, this is scary. My body is scared. My rage parent would rage out and I can never trust anyone to not rage at me again. No, it's just these automated responses that are happening without you even being aware of it. So my subconscious mind has that negative association as well as the negative association of neglect. So in that regard, when I wanted to bond with my parents, for example, I remember my parents would always be downstairs watching TV after dinner. We didn't eat dinner as a family, very emotionally neglectful way of, eating and having lunch and breakfast and dinner and all those things in a neglectful home. You don't do anything as a family. So I remember I'd eat dinner in my room, I'd go downstairs and my parents would be, they'd be watching Saturday Night Live or something and they'd be laughing. And I would maybe go into the kitchen or something to wash my plate and put it away. And I would peek over at what they were watching on Saturday Night Live. And maybe I'd walk over and, try to engage in what they were watching and maybe say something. And then my parents would maybe just look up at me and say something and be like, oh yeah, ha ha ha. And then they would just continue to watch Saturday Night Live. And they wouldn't want me to they wouldn't be like, oh, you should come sit down with us. Let's watch. Hey, come over, come sit down. It was very much don't talk to us. Don't bother us. We're busy watching our show. And you're annoying for disrupting our ability to unwind and just laugh and relax in this moment. There was just always this air of talking to them was bothering them or taking away from their time that I was always on the periphery of. I was never allowed to also be a part of their time. So I understand that my subconscious mind over time, it associates wanting to bond with someone as this fear of rejection. Oh, you're going to get rejected. It's a waste of time. There's no point in doing this. Even though you can reach a point where you're an adult and you have experiences where you know that it's safe to bond with people, your subconscious mind, it's still going to have those automated responses to bonding where it's I want to bond, but wait a second. Should I? It's constantly second guessing itself. And again, this is happening on a very subconscious level. You're not aware that you're doing it. When I didn't text this person back for an egregious amount of time, it's not like I was consciously aware that all of this stored negative associations with bonding was happening in my body. Now that I'm making this video and I'm really more aware of it consciously, I'll definitely look out for it next time. So the third thing is unconscious physiological negative associations, and specifically stress. My body feels stressed out with texting. There's still continuing studies about this, but I was reading a report about this on a website that's called stressmeasurement.org, where they were reporting on unconscious stress. And I feel like it explained very well how this works. I just want to read one of the lines that I thought was really insightful. So it's talking about how a lot of our cognitive processes take place outside of our conscious and even subconscious awareness. So it says, proposed in the neurovisceral integration model is the idea that the default response to uncertainty, novelty, and threat is the sympathexcitatory preparation for action. That is the so-called fight or flight response. This default response is thought to take place without conscious processing or appraisal and is thus believed to be largely unconscious. Importantly, this is due to largely unconscious perceptions of safety rather than stressors. From the examples I explained before, I hope that maybe it makes sense to someone who might be like, why wouldn't someone want to just communicate with someone? Why can't they just, respond in a timely fashion? Well, when your body has all of this stored negative associations and fear around communication, it can associate communication with something that is stressful. And your body, it's not like your brain is consciously thinking, this is stressful, but your body unconsciously is. And I think, on this very unconscious level, it's like my body feels like, receiving communication is a threat. Even at work, I have my the sound on my email notifications turned off. I'd rather just just check my email like every 10 minutes or 15 minutes to see if I have a new email. Like that's how much my body gets so stressed out just hearing a notification. And hopefully some of the things that I explained about, having a rageful parent, being neglected when I was trying to bond with my parents, hopefully that can paint a picture of why a body would have such an intense fear of communication or feel like it's even a threat. It makes sense. You have a parent that's constantly raging at you. That's scary. And so unconsciously, my body just feels stressed out with communication. It's almost like an overheating computer that you need to turn off immediately or shut down immediately because it can't, load your browser and your music and all the tabs that you have open at the same time. It's overwhelming for the computer. And that's how I feel like my body responds to texting. So that day when I didn't text this person back, and just to look at our text, I think it sounds kind of absurd. Like, why would you be stressed out when you're just talking to someone you enjoy talking to? And if I look at our texts, we were just texting about our mutual friends because that's how we met. Yeah, he was just making jokes about his current home that he lives in. And then I just didn't text him. There's nothing that he was saying that was triggering me. There was nothing that he was saying that was stressing me out. My body just associates texting and keeping someone's attention and them keeping yours and keeping a conversation going and bonding. Yeah, as I explained from the things before, my body just associates that with stress. I wish I wasn't like this. I would love to not be like this. It's very inconvenient. It creates a very lonely life. But what can you do? Well, you can make a YouTube video about it and you can work on it. You can't do that. The fourth thing that I think is going on with myself and perhaps other avoidant people is that texting makes you feel like you are responsible for another person and they're responsible for you. And as an avoidant person, depending on other people and other people depending on you, it's a very foreign thing for many of us. And again, I hope some of those examples that I gave from my childhood help paint a picture of why we get conditioned to feel weird when other people have to depend on us, when we have to feel accountable for other people. It's like when you grow up in a home where your caregivers don't want anything to do with you. They don't want to take the responsibility of being your caregiver. They don't want to help you with things. They don't want you to depend on them for someone that they can talk to, hang out with, have dinner with, do things with. You get it conditioned in you and modeled to you that it's freaking weird to depend on people and have them depend on you. And part of depending on someone is having conversations with them and holding the conversation and keeping it going. And I feel stressed out just talking about it. But, yeah, it's unfamiliar and it can feel exhausting and weird. Of course, again, this is happening. Why can't I talk? This is happening subconsciously. It's not like it's happening consciously. It's not like you're going, oh my God, this person is texting me. I'm enjoying the conversation and all, but I'm starting to feel responsible for them. You're not consciously thinking that, but on a subconscious level, you are. You might be thinking that. And to circle it all back to the first point I was making, it can feel like a nuisance. And then you wake up one day and you record a YouTube video and you're like, oh my God, I'm just like my dad. F me. So I hope you guys appreciated this video. Again, feel free to leave a comment about any texting coping mechanisms in your own attachment style that you feel like would be helpful for me to know or anybody else. If you have any questions or video suggestions, you can leave that as well in the comments. And I'll see you in the next video.